name. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev, Jaya Gurudev. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna.
All glory for Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna, everyone. There's not too many of us, but hopefully more soon. But please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. We're back again this week. Thank you again, Maharaj, for joining us. We are still on chapter 4. I think we're heading towards the end of chapter 4. So I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of it. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over. Hare Krishna.
I need permission to record. Very well. Hare Krishna. To all the devotees here, to all the devotees who will watch this conference in the future. So today we are going to start from verse 1:427, and we are starting to see what happened with Srila Vyasadeva not being satisfied. So you can enter into his shoes. And he has written the greatest literature ever written by a living soul, but still he was not satisfied. So now we are going to see why he was not satisfied. And I'm going to read the first verse, and then Andy can follow reading the other verses. First of all, of course, we have to offer our humble obeisances to spiritual masters and deities. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta praye svapadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhatir bhavati naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. A loving service unto the personality of Godhead, with praise, with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nati Prasida Dridhaya Sarasvatyastate Shachau Vitarkayam Viviktasta Idam Chovacha Dharma Vit. Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion and he said within himself. So in this verse there are two words which are important. One is vitarka. Vitarka means with intelligence, with logic. This is how we should go on with our spiritual life. Emotions or what I feel at heart is less reliable type of instrument to understand what to do and what not to do. So vitarka, Vitarka means with philosophy. And the other one is Dharmavit. And Vyasadeva could use Vitarka in the right way because he knew what is wrong and what is right. So, so he said within himself. So please, Bharta, and if you can continue.
I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and others, friends of the twice-born, can see the path of religion.
So see, Vyasadeva did not write the Vedas for his own pleasure. I have explained this point many times. The real teacher is not the one who shows up, who do a show. I want to show how intelligent I am. And if you don't understand, who cares? That is not a real teacher. This is something else. The real teacher is the one who makes the people understand. And this is also the concept of the spiritual master. That's why the spiritual master should be in flesh and bones, let's say, in person, because he has to make people understand. Books are printed, are always the same. If you don't understand, there is nothing you can do. That's the book doesn't change its words. And if you have a spiritual master who is not present physically anymore, he cannot change his way of explanation to make you understand, because he's not there. So again and again, we speak about some kind of philosophy. In our movement, we call it the philosophy of the how they are called?
Is it Ritvik?
The Ritvik Vada. Ritvik is a type of Brahmana who do the ceremony. They do the ceremony, but they are not the persons who initiated the sacrifice. They are not entitled to the sacrifice. They just operate. They are just operators. So there is one philosophy which is moved by politics, by envy, and not by real philosophy. Philosophy means you have some base, but you say something just because you are envious, then that is not a philosophy. So Vyasadeva explained this philosophical principle by saying, before the teaching of the Vedas was in a certain way, but now I have explained the Mahabharata and other scriptures in such a way that you can understand. So here, women, Shudras, and Dvijabandhu. Dvijabandhu means people who are initiated but not very intelligent. This is friends of the twice-born. They are twice-born, but they are friends of the twice-born. Twice-born means initiated. So Vyasadeva said, I explained this to everyone, still am not satisfied. Okay? Here, Srila Prabhupada says, this comes from the Prabhupada explanation. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. The Mahabharata is a very important scripture. Okay, so please let's go on to verse 13.
I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas.
Yes. Yes, there is not much to say on this verse. Let's go on to 31.
This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to perfect beings and to the infallible Lord.
You see, Srila Vyasadeva was so intelligent, so qualified. Of course, his confusion is like Arjuna's confusion in the Bhagavad Gita. It's the same type of confusion. It's a lila. He's taking a part. He's playing a part. Just like in a movie or in a theater, there is someone who plays a part. Someone who dies, someone who screams, someone who did that. Nothing of that is real. So in the case of Arjuna and Vyasadeva, they were not really confused. So much so that differently from Arjuna, it appears that Vyasadeva arrived to the conclusion by himself, even before, as we will see in a few minutes, that his spiritual master appeared. Narada Muni appeared and told him why he was dissatisfied. He said, maybe I didn't explain enough devotional service to the Lord. There was the key of his dissatisfaction, because there is only one religion, actually. But religion is really not the right word. There is only one path, because today we give to the word religion a meaning that is wrong. Okay, so this is why we don't like very much to use the word religion. And the one religion or the one path for realization is devotional service to the Lord. Because to go back to the spiritual world, you have to please the owner, the landlord. You have to please him. Otherwise, if you come to my house and you knock to my door and yell and shout, you must let me in. I said, no, I don't want. This is my house. Okay? I will let in only the person I want associate, I want to be with. So this analogy is good, because to go back to the spiritual world, you have to please the owner of the spiritual world, which is Krishna. And the way to please him is by bhakti, by devotional service. And of course, we are going to talk a lot about devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam is all about devotional service. Okay, let's go on to verse 32. This is an important verse. I'm going to read the Sanskrit and then Andy can continue in English. Tasya ivam kilam atmanam manya manasa kidyataha krishnasya narado bhyagad ashramam prag udaritam. Yes, please.
As mentioned before, Narad reached the cottage of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyas. Narada reached the cottage of Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa on the banks of the Sarasvati, just as Vyasa Deva was regretting his defects.
Yes. So Vyasadeva was wondering, why I'm not satisfied? Why I'm displeased and hurt? And when a man is not happy, there is a reason, because people who is spiritually qualified or spiritually realized is always happy. There is no sadness for persons who are spiritually advanced or spiritually realized. So Vyasadeva thought, I am dissatisfied, then there must be a reason. And Narada Muni appeared, because when the disciple is unhappy, the spiritual master has to intervene. Okay, so the last verse of this chapter, and then we continue to the chapter 5.
At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator.
Yes. Yes. When the spiritual master arrived, you had to give him honors. It's not enough that you say Hare Krishna, Gurudeva. That's not enough. You have to be respectful because it is a great investment. It's very formative. It is formative, right? In English, it builds you up, your character, your nature, being offering obeisances and prayers and the devotional service to the spiritual master. It builds up your nature or your personality. So Vyasadeva got up respectfully. I mean, Vyasadeva is an incarnation of the Lord, incarnation of Krishna, although particular type of incarnation, and gave him a veneration equal, Sura Pujitam. Puja means veneration. Pujam asavididvam naradam Sura Pujitam. You see, this verse is very important because it teaches us what to do when we meet the spiritual master or a spiritual master. There is the spiritual master, there is a spiritual master. So we had to learn how to behave with both type of Vaishnava. He got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, to Brahma, the creator, Vidivat. Vidi means the original being. Okay, so today we are going to start chapter 5, Narada's instruction of Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. And the story of Narada Muni, we are going to study it partly today and some other part in the following weeks. And Narada Muni was in a previous day of Brahma, was a very simple and humble young boy. But his mother was working in some place, and during Chaturmasya, great devotees were staying at this place so not to travel, because during Chaturmasya you shouldn't travel much, you should stay put. So they were staying at this place, and she was serving them, and he was very young. He was a very nice boy, and he was serving these great devotees, these pure devotees. He was listening to his words, and also he was taking the rest of the remnants of the prasadam they were eating. So he became very purified. And a few years after, the day of Brahma finished, and he took birth as Narada Muni, the son of Brahma. And this because of this was due to the result of having served, taking prasadam of pure devotees. So see how important it is to associate with great Vedantists or great Vaishnavas. So today we begin the chapter 5, Sutta Uvacha. Atatam sukam asina upasinam brihachrava devarshi praha viprashim vinapani smayanniva. So Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage among the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi among the brahmanas. So Narada Muni sat down and comfortably, he was smiling. So he was smiling because he knew the problem. He wasn't worried. Oh, man, I had to explain something that I don't know. So if you go to a place and you have to say something that you don't know, you are in anxiety. But Narada Muni was not in anxiety at all. He knew perfectly what was the problem and how to solve it. So verse number 2, please.
Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parashara, Narada,
Parashara,
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 Parasara,
Parashara. Sin accent, de ninguna parte, nowhere. In Sanskrit, there is no accent anywhere. Parashara, Vyasadeva, Narada. Is when you see a line above a vowel, that is not an accent. That is double. It doubles the vowel. If there was like here, we see Narada. Narada. Narada is not Narada. But the right diction. We don't really do this very much because this is not part of our culture, and we had difficulties. But in the name Narada, there are 3 A's. Okay, the first one is long, is na. The other 2 are short, which means no. So the right diction is Narada. Okay, but it's never an accent. It's not Narada. It's Narada. Okay, it's not Parashara. Parashara. It's very easy to get it if you do mentally this exercise to say Parasha in your mind. Atmana. It's not Atmana or Atmana or Atmana. It's not like this. Atmana. Okay, you learn.
Yeah,
That's the question.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue correcting you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parasara.
No, Parashara.
Parasara. Narada. Inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?
So someone can say, well, why Narada said that? Because it's not that Vyasadeva was a materialist or anything. So why Narada Muni was saying that to Vyasadeva? Just like when we meet a materialist and he's in anxiety, we tell him, are you satisfied? We're working all day long just to eat and sleep. Are you satisfied? There was obviously a very ironic or sarcastic way of addressing the other person. And here Narada Muni was quite sarcastic, saying, are you satisfied? But why he said that? Because in the scriptures, Vyasadeva is written until that point, he was referring mainly to the bodily part of reality. Like the Vedas refers to better life. Let's say that's quite simplistic to say it. Of course, it's way more complicated than that. But basically, the Vedas teaches how to live better in this material world and how to go to higher planets. Of course, part of the Vedas teaches also the Brahman, the spiritual entity, etc. But basically, not being present at devotional service almost anywhere in the 4 original Vedas, Narada Muni was criticizing Vyasadeva. He said, that's all Are you satisfied with teaching people to go in Indraloka or to the moon or to the sun? Are you satisfied about that? Because that will lead people to think that this is the goal of life, that there is nothing else, that there is only pleasure. I go to the moon and I enjoy Somarasa and I stay with angels and Apsaras and Gandharvas. I can dance with the music of the Gandharvas, etc. This is not the goal of life. Okay, so that's why Narada Muni was criticizing Vyasadeva, said, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as object of self-realization? Because Vyasadeva was the guru of the gurus. If a guru says something like that, that is a disaster. This is a disaster. The guru must always refer to the spiritual part of life, and specifically devotional service to the Lord. Okay, so verse number 3.
Your inquiries were full, and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata.
Correct.
Which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained.
So it appears that that Narada Muni was criticizing even the Mahabharata, because although in the Mahabharata is the encyclopedia of Dharma, is the encyclopedia that teaches you how to behave. Is certainly, from this point of view, the number one amongst the Puranas, number one among the Itihasas. It's more important than Ramayana. It's more important that. But what is missing in the Mahabharata? The pastime of the Supreme Lord. There are the Mahabharata, half of the Mahabharata talks about Krishna. But Narada Muni wanted more. He wanted the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan. That is what is missing in the Mahabharata. He was missing Radharani. He was missing the gopis. He was missing about this particular type. It was not the perfection. It was not the topmost scripture. The Mahabharata is not the topmost scripture. What is the topmost scriptures? It's the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why the Srimad Bhagavatam is number one of all numbers? Because in the 10th canto, we learn about the transcendental pastimes of Radha and Krishna. This is the number one. So we had to learn how to put everything into perspective. The fact that something is less value than something else doesn't mean that this becomes of no value. It's not because the Bhagavatam is the number one, we shouldn't read the number 2 or the number 3 or the number 4. Certainly because for many reasons. One of the reasons is that you will not understand the number 1 if you don't read the number 2, because it is a sequential. To understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to learn the other thing. Sometimes, just a few days ago, a devotee was talking to me, and he was saying, why in ISKCON, in our movement, our classes are very philosophical, very heavily philosophical. And very rarely we talk about pastimes. Very rarely we talk about Yamuna and Govardhan, Krishna doing this with Radharani, with the gopis, not so much. We do. But in the other math, in the other movement, the Gaudiya movement, their classes are mainly focused on pastimes, a very little philosophy. I myself who was present to many classes given by great devotees of other math, and I saw this. They just talk about pastimes, and very little philosophy. So there may be several reasons why that. Certainly, the Westerners are more philosophical, and Indians are much less philosophically inclined. So, and but also because there is less need to talk philosophy because they know it, but by birth. The concept of not being this body, although I'm generalizing a little bit because there are stupid everywhere, the West and in India everywhere. There are people who do not know the ABC of nothing in the West and in India at the same time. But tendentially, Westerners are more philosophical. So we had to make Westerners to understand philosophy. So once they understand philosophy, then otherwise, it happened to me many times in my preaching. When I tell stories, people become distracted. It's like, this is what my mother did with me, what the Yashoda is doing with Krishna. This is the same thing that my mother was doing with me, or my wife does the same thing with my son. What is so transcendentally beautiful about a mother chastising a son? So before appreciating the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, we had to know. And we had to know that they are transcendental, that they are different. If I tell the story of my mother chastising me, or my wife chastising my son, this is material. This is human. But Mother Yashoda with Krishna, this is not human. This is transcendental. So to know this is not enough. It's not. You may know it, but this concept is not in your heart. It's just knowledge. Knowledge is external. It's epidermic. I don't know if this word exists in English. Epidermic. It's on the skin, on the skin level. It's not inside your heart. So this is why one devotee who knows that Krishna's pastimes are transcendental, as someone who has realized that Krishna's pastimes are transcendental, they have a completely different reaction listening to these activities, to this, which are called lila. A different reaction because they become so happy. When you are advanced in spiritual life, you become happy listening to these activities. While the others, they just listen because they have to, but they don't. So also, there is the problem that sometimes those devotees who are immature, they talk too much about something, like for instance, talking about sex. If a 30 or 40 years old preacher talks too much about sex, it is quite evident that he talks about it because he likes it. While if 80, 85, or 90 years old Vaishnava talks about sex, he's talking about philosophy. So we had to be very careful to how we preach. And I suggest that we should tell some lila every time, yes, but philosophy should be, especially for newcomers, philosophy should be first. Okay, so number 4, please prepare your questions because, we are 36 minutes, we have time, but prepare your questions. Because you see, in Italian and in Spanish, we have live on Facebook, so they send questions on Facebook. Here, you are not in Facebook, so nobody writes. That's a difference. So anyway, I respect your choice to send it to YouTube or something, but I always prefer Facebook because there are more people there. Okay, 154.
You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman, as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu?
Yes, so where Vyasadeva is delineated the subject to impersonal Brahman, as well as knowledge derived therefore, where? Where did he do that? In the Upanishad. Okay? I said many times, there are 4 Vedas, and each of these 4 Vedas are divided in 4. The 4th part, the last one, part of each Veda is called the Upanishad. So there are Shruti and there are Smriti. Shruti are the Vedas with the Upanishad, because the Upanishad are part of the Vedas. Okay? And while in the 3/4 of each Veda, it's more explained, sacrifices and mantras to go to other planets, also to have a better material life, etc., etc., sacrifices and all these things. In the 4th Veda, it is explained Brahman. At the end of Brahman is very important. Sometimes a letter doesn't seem particularly important, but it is, because Brahman is neuter, while Brahma is masculine. So if you say Brahma, you say Krishna, the person Krishna. If you say Brahman is neuter, then you refer to the energy of Brahma. So Brahma is Brahman. So here, the word Brahman, the absolute, is used. Although so this is, so he says, you spoke about the material world, you spoke about the spiritual world. So why you are not satisfied yet? No? Here, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he refers to the Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra. This is a wonderful book. It is smaller than the Bhagavad Gita, but to explain it, it takes a book of 1,000 pages or sometimes 2,000 pages, because it's so concise. There are verses who are just one word. So you can imagine, only one word, the verse. So, to understand the Vedanta Sutra, you have to know the Vedas, otherwise you don't understand what he is saying. So the Vedanta Sutra is not really for us, unless a great Acharya explains it, like Baladeva Vidyabhushana, who in the 17th century, he wrote the Govinda Bhashya, which is an explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, also called Brahma Sutra. Of course, the Vedanta Sutra had been explained before Baladeva Vidyabhushana by others, great acharyas like Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya. They all written it. There is no spiritual movement accepted without an explanation of the Brahma Sutra or the Vedanta Sutra. And because of this, Baladeva Vidyabhushana had to write one. Although the Gaudiya Vaishnava, there is a long story about this. I'm not going to tell it today, maybe next time. And Baladeva Vidyabhushana, the devotees at the time were saying, no, we have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. That is a Srimad Bhagavatam. But some other people were not accepting this point, because in the Srimad Bhagavatam there are things that are not present in the Vedanta Sutra at all. So the Gaudiya had to produce a specific commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was very old, he entrusted Baladeva Vidyabhushana, who was his Shiksha disciple, to write a commentary on them. And we had this book, which is a wonderful book, the Govinda Bhashya. And so So everything is there. So why are you complaining? What's wrong with you? He was teasing him. You gave everything. Why you should be satisfied, dear Prabhu? See how sarcastic Narada Muni was at that time. He was calling him Prabhu. Normally, a Prabhu shouldn't be despondent. A Prabhu is a teacher. Prabhu is teacher. Dear Prabhu, you are the teacher of everybody, but you are sad. You are morose. Why should you be morose? You have done your service. And so now we are going to see what Vyasadeva is going to answer. Is going to respond to Narada Muni teasing him. Number 5.
Sri Vyasadeva said, "All you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction. For you are a man of unlimited knowledge, due to your being the offspring of one Brahma, who is self-born, without mundane father and mother."
You see, this is a very important teaching for us. Vyasadeva had already given the answer to Narada's question before Narada put in the question. He already said, I am dissatisfied because I didn't explain devotional service to the Lord. Okay? Now Narada Muni is telling him, what's wrong with you? So Narada Muni knew it already because he'd already said it. But he put the question to Narada Muni. Please tell me why? Because your understanding and instruction coming from your spiritual master are not the same thing. You may know the right thing. You may say or do the right thing. But when you get it from your spiritual master, it's 100 times, 1,000 times more effective, more derompent in your life. It's a total revolution when the guru tells you, do this. You knew it, what you had to do, but your guru said it. So it's not the same thing. It's 1,000 times more powerful. So Vyasadeva, although he knew what was wrong with him, he wanted Narada Muni to tell him. And this verse is very important because it teaches us how to live our spiritual life in relationship with our spiritual master. Okay, verse number 6.
My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the 3 modes of material nature.
You should not make questions to just anybody, because hearing answers from a normal average man, even normal average devotee, will not make you feel or make you feel sure that the instruction received is the right one. But when you ask it to the guru, that is completely different. You have, or you must have, you should have a total faith on the words of the spiritual master. You see, this is how Vyasadeva is talking to Radha Muni. You know everything. You are perfect. So please tell me. This is very important. Okay, number 7. And after we are going to let you question. We are not very many, so everybody should do at least a question. I want to remember everyone that putting a question, it's not necessarily you don't know the answer to put a question. You can ask a question just for the sake of a conversation. Somebody knows the answer, or maybe he thinks that he knows the answer, putting questions is always important, just like Vyasadeva. He knew the answer, but still he put a question. Okay, number 7.
Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the 3 worlds. And like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive supersoul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows.
This is also another very nice teaching, that putting a question is not enough, because you have to prepare yourself to receive the answer. But if you do not follow any vows, then you go to the guru and ask him a question, he will answer you, but you will not understand. Or you may understand it all intellectually, but not deeply in your heart. So here, Vyasadeva said, I am absorbed in transcendence, no? And I am following disciplinary regulations and vows. So he's telling us, okay, you should go to a guru or senior devotees, putting questions, but prepare yourself for receiving the answer so that you can understand more. Because sometimes understanding, there are different levels of understanding. Just like when we read the books at the beginning of our spiritual life, and when we read the books after 30 or 40 years, the effect, I tell you, my personal experience, just it looks like another book. It doesn't even look the book that you read 40 years before, because you have prepared yourself to understand fully the import of transcendental knowledge. So Srila Prabhupada here is saying transcendental realization, pious activities, worshiping the deities, charity, mercifulness, non-violence, studying the scriptures, and the strict disciplinary regulation are always helpful. Very good. Okay, so we have some 10, 20 minutes receiving questions. What's happening here? Okay. All right. That's your job. I did my job. I spoke for 49 minutes. Now you do yours. Otherwise, it's like being in a cinema eating popcorn. You know, let's see what this man is going to tell me. You know, I don't have to do anything.
I have a question, Maharaj.
Yes. I'm just joking. Oh. Don't take it as an offense.
So when you were speaking about in the beginning that that logic is better than just experiencing emotions, when is it okay to allow our emotions to kind of help us guide us in understanding, philosophy or spiritual experience of some sort?
Yeah, just like Srila Prabhupada tells us that there are different types of instruments to acquire knowledge. Fundamentally, Srila Prabhupada outlines 3, but of course there are many more. One is sense perception, and the second is inference of logic, and the third one is accepting the authority of the scriptures or the guru. The first one is called pratyaksha. Evidence is called pramana. Then there are 3 types of main types of pramana. One is pratyaksha, the sense perception. The second is intelligence, anumana, pramana, and the other one is shastra, pramana. Okay, so should we say that since the senses are imperfect, have no value? Of course they do. Of course they do. When Srila Prabhupada criticized Pratyaksha Pramana, does not say that we should shut our eyes or our senses that have no value whatsoever. Prabhupada was just saying that they are imperfect, they are limited. Okay, so we should not give full trust into sense perception. And Anumana Pramana, our intelligence, Prabhupada is not saying that we should just be foolish and not reason and not try to understand by myself what is right and what. Of course we should. But our intelligence also are limited. So we should use intelligence, but we should not give full faith into our intelligence because we cannot know everything. The third one, Shastra Pramana, also called Shabda Pramana, is the perfect one because those are the information coming from perfect sources, which are the scriptures and the spiritual masters. So to answer your good question is that emotions are there, a part of our nature. It's like a sense. It's like eyes, it's like touch, it's like, but it is imperfect. So we should you have no way to avoid, using your emotion, but you should not trust completely that your emotion will tell you what to do or what not to do. For instance, today I need to change my rounds, but today I don't feel like, okay? I don't want to change my round. This is emotional understanding. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, it's normal. Sometimes we like it, sometimes we don't like it. But Shastra, the Guru says, you should chant anyway, even if you don't like it today, even if you don't feel like, you should do it anyway. And then you push yourself into it anyway. So emotions are there, should be used, but we should not give full trust that they are telling us what to do in perfect sense. We should use knowledge by Shastra to determine what is right and what is wrong. Shastra, when we say Shastra or when we say Shabda, which is the same thing, Shabda means information. Literally, Shabda means sound. Okay, so sound means the information that we get from the scripture and from the gurus. There is no difference between Shastra and Guru. There is a difference, that the Shastra is there forever, it cannot change, the Guru can change it. Of course, not too much. If he is a good Guru, doesn't change too much. It changes enough to make you understand, to give you the possibility for spiritual realization. So this is the difference between Shastra and Guru. Guru is a person. Shastra is not a person. You cannot put a question to the Bhagavad Gita. It's already written, it's there. You cannot say, oh, dear Bhagavad Gita, I don't understand this point, please explain. And we no answer, it's a book. But the Guru explains. You say, oh, dear Gurudeva, Bhagavad Gita said that, I didn't understand, can you explain? He will answer. That's again, going back to the Ritvik Vada, this is another point of why this philosophy is so out of logic, so apa sampradaya. Apa in Sanskrit means outside. Outside. It's just not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. That the Guru is there to answer to you. That's why it's so important to have a spiritual master. So to conclude, you should not think that since you have some feeling, it's bad, it should be used, but don't trust them too much. Do the right thing that comes from Guru and Shastra.
Thank you, Maharaj. I have another question, but
yes, please.
Yeah. So with the Guru making that deep impact onto the disciple, is that determined by the amount of connection, of love that he has for his guru? That like does that make any sense? Like the impact that it's going to make on the disciple, it only depend on the I don't know if love is the right word, but how much he surrenders to the guru, how much he has surrendered. Like what I guess my question is, like, throughout the years, like from your experience, you know, when you were listening to Prabhupada, when you just, you know, a few years before after you got initiated, and then now when you hear Prabhupada, obviously he's had more of an impact in your heart and in your life, so therefore the words become more have more gravity. If maybe you can correct me on that or not.
Yes. Okay. So let me see how can I explain this point, which is very important. So when I met Srila Prabhupada, I was 18 years old. I was a very young boy. So I did not understand much about philosophy. I didn't know what is what. I didn't understand. I wasn't very intelligent, etc. So I met various gurus, quote unquote, Indian gurus before Srila Prabhupada. They didn't make any impact on my life at all. At the contrary, I thought, okay, this is another Christianity. You know, India is just money. They are just trying to get more money from me as possible, etc. When I met Srila Prabhupada, it was like, I cannot explain it, you know, at the level of feeling, but at the philosophical level. So I started to be grateful to Srila Prabhupada, and because it was finally, I met someone who made sense what he said. What he said, it made much sense. And not only it was making sense, but it was changing my life. It was not just a philosophy. Philosophy is just good words, you know. You go to the cinema, you watch it for 1 hour and a half, and then you get out and nothing changes of your life. You just enjoyed 1 hour and a half. What I wanted, and many of us, all of us want right now, is that this philosophy must change our life. Because otherwise it's not important. It's not life. It's not a Sunday mass. And we go and we get out and nothing has changed. So at the beginning, since Srila Prabhupada gave me philosophy and a way of life, I very much started to love him. But of course, it was a very immature love, was just because I was grateful. So when the years go by and you understand that not only you love him because he changed my life, I received from Srila Prabhupada, but when you become a little older, you know, then you start to understand that you had to reciprocate. You had to do something for him because he gave you so much. He gave you everything. Like in my present life, there is nothing that does not depend on him. On he gave it to me. There's nothing. There is no 1 second that I do something that doesn't depend on every met Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so my entire life has been changed by Srila Prabhupada. Love, the real love, which is a good word. You know, love is prema, is bhakti, is correct. The real love comes when you give back or try to give back. Otherwise, gratefulness is love, but it's very selfish. Love comes from giving back. So what Srila Prabhupada wanted from me, what Srila Prabhupada wants from all of us, that we give back to him, or to Krishna, obviously, what he gave us. So what Krishna may need from us, what a realized person, an Atmarama like Srila Prabhupada may need anything from us. He's not even here physically anymore. What can I do for him? You know? Then we had to understand that they taught us a spirituality. So we can give them back from the spiritual point of what they want. They want that we love them and other people the way they loved us. Srila Prabhupada came in the West to give us the most wonderful thing, which is Krishna consciousness, which is a lifestyle. I want to repeat it. This is very important. It's not just a philosophy. It's not just a religion. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of lifestyle means not only the way you live your 24 hours, but the way you look at things, the values of life, everything. So we receive something wonderful and we had to give it to others. This is the way your love will become mature. You received, you continue to receive, and you have to give it back. So you receive every time you go to the temple, you receive classes and kirtans and prasadam. You have to give back. You have to give service, you have to cooperate, you have to do something to, not just to help, of course help is needed, but it's just a gesture of giving back that is part of loving relationship. Just like sometimes I receive donation. Sometimes these donations are very little, and sometimes a donation, just like one devotee wanted me to buy a new computer when I 90% will move to another country. So he said that now it's time to change your old computer, which is, they are 10 years old. So he gave me a lot of money because a new computer, the way that I need it, is a few $1,000s. And sometimes they send me $1, you know. So what is the difference between $1,000 and $1? There is no difference. There is no difference. Because, of course, if the person who gave me $1 is a millionaire, so it is a big difference, okay? But if he doesn't have money, he gave me $1, it's a lot. The one who gave me, I know that my disciple, his initiated disciple, gave me this big donation. You know, he's a well-being, he has money. So that's why he can give this money. But we should give what we have and doing it with love and devotion. There is a very nice story in the Ramayana about that happened when the Lord Ramachandra was building the bridge to Lanka. So they were building this bridge, and Hanuman and all the great Vanaras, they were lifting boulders and throw them in the ocean, that entire mountains and hills in this. And then there was one little spider just moving a little grain of sand, you know, and Hanuman saw the spider that he was pushing and pushing, and they said, "Oh, you are useless. What are you doing? Look at what I can do. What is a grain of?" But Ramachandra saw this and he said, no, there is no difference whatsoever from what you are doing and what he is doing, because both of you are giving me what you can give. The spider can give me that, and this is appreciated. You can give me that, is also appreciated. What is most important is devotion. So devotion is behind love. Okay, you receive Krishna consciousness. If you want your love to become mature for your guru and the other devotees and Krishna, you should give back.
Yes, Maharaj, thank you. I experienced that today, actually, which is an interesting thing that had happened. I took my son Oliver to the park, and there was another young lady there, and she had a daughter. And I was really shy, but I had just finished another lecture, I think it was yesterday, and it was talking about just the same concept, like giving back. And so I just spoke a little bit and you know, try to preach that 1% that I have. But she really was open to it and willing to hear more and meet up some more and just get a book and stuff. So and I felt like, wow, this I haven't experienced this since I've been in Krishna consciousness, and it kind of filled in that gap of just there was a little bit of like unsatisfaction too, kind of like yesterday, like just not sure why I'm feeling unsatisfied. And as soon as I did that, I did feel very, very satisfied. So yes, I can bring that experience here.
Yes, very good, very good. But in Rosalind?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Going back to text number 2, when Narada inquired, are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization? I would like you to discuss how is it that we can take our mind out of the self-realization? Is there not some kind of intellectual understanding necessary? Or what is the difference between this philosophy and experience?
Well, here, Narada Muni was criticizing or being ironic or being sarcastic because he was referring to the quality of the Vedas. Vyasadeva is the author of the Vedas. So the Vedas are built up in such a way that you are brought to identify yourself with the body or your mind. Because if you are taught to do things that will benefit your body or mind, you think, okay, I am the body. And Vyasadeva is teaching me this, so it means that mind. He wasn't referring very much into the philosophical or the explanation about what is mind. Sometimes, if you want to say something, we may use a word in a general sense, just to get away with that. And then there will be other moment in which you will explain what is the mind, and what is the body. So the word used here is Manasa, which means the mind. And mind is the you say that in English, the controller of the senses. I try to explain the difference between the senses, mind, and intelligence, and consciousness, and identification various times in our classes. And so if you speak about the body, you cannot not speak about the mind, because the mind is the controller of the senses. But how the mind controls the senses? The mind controls the senses according to the sensorial experiences. Okay, like, let's do one example. If you like to hear a certain type of music, and you hear it, your mind will form around the quality of the sound that you are hearing. Then the mind will, since you like it, then the mind will tell you, yes, you like the sound, continue listening to the sound. This is the mind. The mind directs the senses, but again, it directs according to the sensorial experience. It does not make, it does not make like choosing what type of music you should listen. That is buddhi, that is intelligence, it's another thing. The buddhi, intelligence, and manasa, the mind, and indriya, the senses, are three different levels of instruments. The intelligence is, how you say that in English? It's I know three languages, but I no word coming to the mind. It's he scrutinizes, he understands, he you know, I don't have the word, I'm sorry. Okay, it doesn't depend on the sensorial activities, but it depends on knowledge, what you know. Of course, if you don't know anything, then the experience of the senses will become important for the intelligence also. And you start to think, oh yes, these are important because the mind says that these are important, the senses say that they're important, and then they must be important. But when you start studying the philosophy, especially our philosophy, then your intelligence starts to think differently from the experience of the senses and the mind. The intelligence will tell you, okay, you like it, but according to the guru, according to the shastra, according to understanding, according to all the studies I did, this is not right. You may like it, but it's not right. This is buddhi. This is intelligence. While the mind say you like it, do it. You don't like it, don't do it. And the senses do it or don't do it according to the mind. So the mind is more automatic. It's mechanical. And emotions, like I think Cassandra was referring before to emotions, are on the mind level. On the mind level, not on the intelligence level. The emotions, they come from your experience and your desires. You would like that this be true, so something happens and you feel like, oh yes, this is nice, yes, I like. You have no reason to like it, you just like it. Okay? You must have a reason to like it. Just like sometimes we hear them, oh, I like this because I always say this because it's, you know, one devotee once told me, no, I want to take initiation from this guru because he has blue eyes. You know, this kind of like, it's nowhere written that the best guru has blue eyes, you know, but he liked it and he took initiation from this guru who later fell down also, I have to say. So, and then understanding emotions are two different things because emotions are driven by sensorial experience, positive or negative. Understanding from studies. Okay, I think that's
Maharaj,
Yes.
may I ask, does that mean that transcendental knowledge is not the same as intellectual understanding, that they are, transcendental knowledge doesn't go with the mind that relates to the body?
To understand philosophy transcendentally, you have to be transcendental. Until you are not transcendental, you will understand transcendental knowledge with your
mind.
No, with your intelligence, not the mind. The mind
Okay.
has nothing to do with understanding. With your intelligence, although your intelligence is still imperfect, but intelligence is the one presupposed. Is that in English? Presupposta? I should have my Google Translate open, otherwise, you know.
Predisposed?
Assumption, presupposition. But I don't know if that is what I want to say. Anyway, the mind is the sense for understanding. The mind, the intelligence. The mind does not understand, it's intelligence. So transcendental knowledge, you understand it intellectually at the beginning. As you go, as you proceed in your spiritual life and you get more advanced and purified, then your understanding will be more and more spiritual and less just intellectual. Just like our philosophy is very much different from other philosophies, because other philosophy is mathematics. There is no difference between math and philosophy. You can say the same thing with numbers. Okay, but our philosophy has bhakti. And bhakti, you cannot express it in number. Bhakti is part of the person, while philosophy is you can be anyone. But to understand this philosophy, you have to learn how to love Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Otherwise, you don't understand it actually. So to conclude, at the beginning, you will understand transcendental knowledge just intellectually, and then gradually the quality of your understanding will become more and more spiritual. And one day, you will understand it totally in a total spiritual way.
Thank you. That's much clearer now. Thank you.
But Andy,
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribo.
I had a question that wasn't completely, I mean, we're kind of on the topic, but it wasn't totally related, if that's okay. So in the Krishna book, when Lord Brahma is giving his prayers to Krishna after him taking the cowherd boys, one part stood out to me in particular, where he was speaking about Maya existing only in the mind. And so I was hoping if you could elaborate. I could find the specific part, but that's really like the piece that stood out to me, where he was speaking that Maya existed only in the mind, because then that gave me that tied in with like thinking of the Paramatma existing like in the heart. So it's like super soul's in the heart, and then is Maya in the mind, or if that
So I don't remember this, so I should put it into context. If you can show me, read where you read it, or tell me exactly, because sometimes things are written or said that in a certain context they have sense. They make sense, and without the context, it just doesn't add up.
Okay, I have it. It says
Okay.
The simile of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, the existence of a snake besides the rope is only within the mind. The existence of Maya, similarly, is only within the mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. When one... Okay.
Yeah. Where is this said? What book?
Krishna book?
The Krishna book. Yes. Just like we have spoken many times, maybe not many times, but we have spoken several times about the word upadi. The word upadi, you all know because you have heard my explanation many times about the word upadi. Upadi means projecting a value of something that comes from your mind. The object does not have that value, but you project it. I made the example because it's very easy to understand about a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, in the case of women, that beauty is not part of that body. A material body is not beautiful. The proof, well, we may be attracted to a beautiful woman, but if we walk and a dog comes, he doesn't even look at her because he doesn't perceive that he has another projection of beauty. Or a great sage, a pure devotee who meets walking a beautiful woman does not even look at her. Why? Because his mind does not project beauty in that particular form. Okay, so the value of attraction is not present in the material world, because in the material world nothing is attractive. Because a material body, it's flesh, it's blood, it's mucus, it's stool, it's urine. What is attractive in all of that? That is the material body. So there's no attraction. Just because it's closed with 0.5 millimeter of skin, in a certain form, only a fool will think that these things it's beautiful. But not only that, also everything that exists in this world it's not beautiful because it's so temporary. Just like this morning, we here in San Antonio, we were enjoying some sunshine. It was a beautiful day, and it wasn't cold anything, so it was very nice to go walk, etc. It's finished already. We are already about 3 Celsius already. It's cold again, So what is beauty? What kind of beauty is there in something that finishes so quickly? You cannot even start enjoying it, it's already gone. So an intelligent person will go looking for something that does not finish. So there are 2 problems with the material world. One is objectively not attractive if you are intelligent, and the second, that is temporary. So this is why in the Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada makes this point, an extremely intelligent point, where he says that everything that is attractive comes from our mind, from our perception, and is not objectively present in anything material. The attraction factor is not in the thing that we are perceiving, but it comes from our mind. That's why when we advance in spiritual life, we become detached from these things, because we learn that everything that we like so much, now we don't like it anymore, because we know, we have knowledge, we have experience. We are not going to fall into Maya's trap again. We may have fallen in the past, but not now. I'm not going to repeat again this, because now I have knowledge. And my knowledge, before also I had knowledge, but now my knowledge is stronger. This is how a devotee thinks. We have to, that's why it's so important, philosophy. Philosophy is very, very important because it makes you understand this. And so it's a projection, it's an upadi. It's not real. No? It's like going in a cinema. All those pictures, they are just rays of light. That's all. There's nothing going on there. Nobody's killing anybody, nobody's loving anybody. They're just lights. And everybody say, oh, he's dying. Oh, nothing is happening. It's false. It's fake. It's just an imagine. It's a fantasy. This material world is something very similar to a movie. Queen's Cut. Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
I just have a question. You say that once you gain the knowledge to accept the fact that the material world is temporarily and that it really doesn't matter, how do you prevent yourself from developing a sense of apathy? Because I just feel that even with the happiness that we should receive from becoming devotees and releasing our material desires, just how do you stop yourself from thinking, oh, it just doesn't matter at all, and why should I do this if it really doesn't matter?
Yes, thank you. This is a very intelligent question. Very intelligent. Yes, because when people at the beginning of their spiritual life, they hear this philosophy, apathy may happen. But actually a spiritualist is not apathic at all. It's actually even more dynamic, but with a different goal in his life. Just like you may study and maybe you are not ready to go live in a temple, retire, renounce everything, So because you don't have the desire, I'm not referring to you, I don't even know you, I'm talking in general. So, and maybe you're not the desire to renounce everything, going in India or going in a nice temple and live as a devotee, etc., etc. I said, okay, then I will continue studying or working. But before, you were working, thinking, I think excuse me. I'll take my degree and then I will find a job. So why you want a job? To make money. And why you want money? Because you want a house, because you want a husband, because you want children, because you want to enjoy life, you know. You want to go Sunday, you want to go walk in the river here in San Antonio, if you are in San Antonio, I don't know, and eat a pizza and things like that for enjoying. This is an enjoyment project, okay? This is what the materialists do. They have project for enjoyment. When you are a devotee, you start understanding that these things are not so important anymore. You continue doing what you do, but you do it with a different consciousness. I'm going to study because I'm not ready to renounce everything, but in the meantime, I will get more mature. So I will serve Krishna. So all these things will become secondary. I want to become a devotee. So you will continue to do this thing because you cannot not do it. You cannot avoid it because you want to be a devotee. Because if you become apathic, you will also not be a devotee. You will just get sick. You will retire for everything, and at the end you start hating our philosophy that made you apathic. So you should never become apathic. You should, on the contrary, be fully dynamic and with full interest in life, but with a different goal. My goal is to become a pure devotee. And maybe to become a pure devotee, I need to continue studying. I need to continue making money for my family or playing music or whatever you do in your life. Because if you don't, then you will not have the strength, physical and intellectual, to even be a devotee. So this is a secret that we have to learn. How to, there are different paths to become a devotee. What I did when I was 18, I gave everything up and I went to live in a temple. That's all. I didn't care about them. I left my family, my friends, I left the little money I had, and throw everything away. I went to live in a temple because this is what I wanted. But maybe you don't. Maybe many devotees are not ready to do this kind of choice. So there are another path. There is not only one path to become a pure devotee. There is not only one. This is not. There is some who preach this, and this is not right. There are many other paths to become a devotee. That's why you had to be directed. You had to be helped to advance in spiritual life according to your necessity. That's why we continue talking about a guru, a spiritual master, or if you don't have a spiritual master, or if you don't want a spiritual master, because it is a serious business in a spiritual master, you should take direction from senior devotees who can help you to understand what you had to do. Maybe what you had to do to be fully productive in the material life and in the spiritual life at the same time. Maybe what you need is something different from another person. So your question is very important because it applies to basically all our devotees, especially those who do not live in a temple. We're not brahmacharya, brahmacharini, sannyasis, etc. And this science of advancing a spiritual life according to one's personality, time, circumstance, it's very important.
Thank you for answering, Maharaj. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Very well. So we have some 5 or 10 minutes more, and then we will adjourn. If there is a last question, I take it. Otherwise, we finish here.
Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes.
I
Last
had
question.
I had a question about reading. So with reading the Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, I mean, is it so as we're reading, should we read it like taking our time? So like take it one verse, one purport at a time, or like read and then once I finish that purport, continue on. Because if I read it like one verse, one purport, then my train of thought is that I can keep that verse and that purport like throughout the day, or I can try to. But if I like read one verse and another verse and another verse, then I probably won't end up remembering anything, but it's there somewhere, maybe, I don't know. So that's why I'm seeking your recommendation or advice on how to approach reading.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there is one way for everyone. Depends. I can tell you what I did. What I did, since I was realizing that I wasn't able to understand everything about one verse. I just didn't, but I had this the feeling that I was missing something. Actually, I was missing a lot. Okay. So what I decided, although nobody told me to do this, what I decided that I was going to read it, doesn't matter if I understand everything or not, if I had the feeling that I understood it or not, I just continue reading much as possible. Because it is the discipline of reading every day without missing one time that helped you to understand what you are not understanding. In other words, if you think, I'm going to read slowly because in this way I understand more, means that you are relying on your intelligence in understanding. Yes, again, we go back to what we have spoken a few minutes ago about Anumana Pramana. You have your intelligence, and then yes, you can understand, but there's no way that you are going to understand everything without purification. And purification comes from the discipline of reading, no matter if you understand or not. Because when you read the Bhagavatam, in a few years, you'll go back reading the Bhagavatam again. To you, it will seem like another book. It will seem like you never read it. This is the characteristic of transcendental knowledge. That understanding, it depends from purification and not from your effort, your intellectual effort. Intellectual effort, yes, of course, you can understand, but you will understand more when you are more advanced in spiritual life. So I would advise you to continue reading, even if you feel that you have not understood. Read, read, and read. And then you finish the book and you start again. You don't have to read the Bhagavatam only once in your life. You need to read it 10 times. I read Bhagavad Gita 36 times in my life, and I still have not understood it. So it is, this is how it works, transcendental knowledge. And actually the book that I read was not the Bhagavad Gita, but I read the 36 Bhagavad Gitas, because every time I read this new, I understand something new that I didn't know that it was there. Who wrote the book? Who corrected my Bhagavad Gita? Okay, it was there, but you just didn't get it at the last time. So continue reading. And of course, keep your copybook at your, and you write your question, then we discuss it. Okay, I think that we are done for today. We are going to meet Wednesday now because Thursdays become problematic for some of you. So we had decided to change, And so I invite you to visit Ishvara which is my temple, which is my place of worship, my service. We have now 8,249. It will become, the number will grow more and more and more. And then we have Kadachi editions, which are our books. So I write the books from you, please read them. And go there in isvara.org daily. There is no day that I don't publish something in Krishna's pastimes or philosophy. So you are very much invited and welcome to visit. Okay, thank you very much, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari 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 Bol.
Haribo, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Haribo.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Ms.
Krishna,
Maharaj.
everyone.
Hare Krishna.